Previously on web series.
What is that?
That's it. You're literally caught up.
Oh my god! My childhood! Welcome back everyone to web series episode 5. You know the drill at this point. 3 Spider-Man games. Let's start with the first one. Spider-Man the Animated Series.
I wasn't lying when I said this show was my childhood. Don't believe me? We'll have a 2004 picture of Tiny Hunter Christmas morning with all my Spider-Man merch. Front and center we have the crop of the cream, one of the Spider-Man Animated Series VHS tapes.
I even still have the VHS. This show is universally loved by fans for having great adaptations of stories from the comics. Can the game hold up to the spectacular standards of the show? Let's find out.
This starts out with the animated series theme song. When I first heard that, I had such a grin on my face. That grin faded when I actually started playing and realized that that's the only thing that this has in common with the show. The story is some villains break out of Ravencroft and Spider-Man needs to catch them before they destroy the city. Graphics look alright, nothing out of this world, but nothing really bad about it. Now for gameplay, we have a punch, kick, jump, and webs. Moving along, the first person we run into looks kind of like a Spartan from Halo, but I might just be reaching on that one. Wait, please! After you take out these two guys, we hit a dead end. Where do we go from here? Turns out this staircase in the background is where. This is a start to a seemingly never-ending problem with this game. I can never tell what is just background and what is a path you can take. It doesn't help that you have to be in a very specific spot in order to actually take that path. This is a constant throughout the game and really makes it tough without a guide. Besides that, the game is a little rough around the edges. Hitboxes are not great, leading to a lot of missed hits and unfair deaths. Speaking of deaths, this time they got rid of the password system and went back to continues and game overs. The nice thing about this is that you can choose how many continues you get in the options menu.
Yeah, you're gonna want to go ahead and crank those lives up as high as they can go because this game is a lot of trial and error.
Some of the deaths I got were extremely unfair, like this trapdoor right at the end of the conveyor belt. How would anyone know that without playing first? There's no warning! I thought I fell into another one of these, but it turns out it was actually a secret area. Each stage has one, and they are all a sewer level with health and weapon. There is danger though, and I have died many times in there, so just get what you need and get out. Once you get to the end of the level, you fight Doc Ock. Now, you can fight him until your fingers bleed, but you won't do any damage to him. What you actually have to do is go up this ladder and turn on this machine. That will shoot this death ray that hurts anyone it hits. I tried leading him into this for about 15 minutes until I gave up and looked online for what to do. Turns out you have to web him in the face when he's right next to the ray in order for him to take any damage. Now, I really do think that that's a cool boss fight. Instead of just punching him until he's a bloody pulp, you actually have to be strategic and beat him in an interesting way. But come on, how would anyone know how to do this without looking it up? Imagine you're a kid in 1995 when this game came out. You can only buy one game and you love Spider-Man. You love the TV show. The obvious answer is to pick this game up. You go home and you can't even beat the first level because apparently Doc Ock has skin like Luke Cage. It was a good idea, but a bad execution. After we beat Doc Ock, we go straight to the next level. No other cutscene or story. Now this level does something incredible. It takes everything that was wrong in the first level and makes it even worse. The lines between gameplay geometry and background are more blurred than Peter's eyesight before he got bitten by the spider. Once you do a lot more trial and error, you get to the top of the construction, and then you pull out your phone and go on YouTube to find out what to do here. This has got to be one of the most confusing games I've played yet. There's so many things you would have to completely guess before you even got close to beating half the game. Thankfully, we do have the internet, so we can just move on to the next level. This one is much more straightforward. Just swing across the bridge and fight a few bad guys. Wait, is that who I think it is?
Master Chief, you mind telling me what you're doing on that ship?
Sir, finishing this fight.
Okay, seeing Master Chief in this game has reminded me of actual good video games, so we're going to be moving on before I start to question what I'm doing with my life. More than I already do, that is. Should you play this game? I'm gonna have to say no, not really. Fans of the animated series will only really appreciate the intro song, and if you like retro games in general, you could find better games to play than this. Overall, its score is gonna be 4 out of 10 villains.
Well, now that we're done with that dumpster fire, let's move on to The Amazing Spider-Man Web of Fire for the Sega Genesis 32X.
For those of you who are unfamiliar, the 32X was an add-on for the Sega Genesis that would be able to play 32-bit games. It was a commercial failure that retailed at $160 in 1994, but dropped all the way down to $19.95 by the end of 1995. They announced they were discontinuing it, and then 1 month later this game showed up on store shelves.
Well, if that's not a recipe for a great game, I don't know what is.
Well, starting off, we see where the budget didn't go. Come on, this is one of the laziest start screens I've ever seen. When we do start, we find out that Hydra has put a laser web, whatever that is, over New York and is holding the city hostage for $1 billion?
Well, so far we have a good story.
One of the first things you'll notice is that there's no sprites, but all of Spider-Man's animations are real pictures of someone doing it, just giving the illusion of movement, a style that was popularized by Mortal Kombat. Another thing you'll notice is that there's a lot of reused assets. It starts to feel like you're in that never-ending staircase from Super Mario 64, because you just keep seeing the same thing over and over again. But after a while it does end and you fight Dragon Man. I have to say, this game does take a risk by using some no-name villains. At the very least, you can call it original. The next level feels even more bare bones, the same steel beams over and over again. While I was playing this game, I had a question that kept popping up in my head.
Why am I still alive?
Yeah, you know it's bad when I start to question my will to live on the second level. I can tell that this game isn't finished. If I had to guess, it was started before they announced that they were going to discontinue the 32X, but already made some of the assets and were like, well, I'm not doing anything else until lunch. Might as well try and knock out the game with what we already have. Like I said, this is clearly rushed and unfinished, and because of that, they're going to get a rushed and unfinished review from me. 3 Spider-somethings out of whatever.
We're now moving on to a game that a lot of viewers are going to have very fond memories of. This is Spider-Man for the PlayStation 1.
There's a lot to talk about with this game, so let's start with the title screen. We have a cool splash screen with a really weird mix of his theme. When we actually start, we get the real menu. Damn, we moved out of the Stone Age and into the Middle Ages. There's so many options here. But we'll get to that later. Let's start a new game. This is the big deal. 3D graphics. No longer are the days of just side-scrollers or beat-em-ups. The story for this game is Spider-Man is framed for stealing a reformed Doc Ock science machine. Eddie Brock tries to take a picture of it, but the fake Spider-Man breaks his camera so he turns into Venom. Then we get into the actual game where it starts off with a shot of the Fantastic Four building, and then we get some narration.
Welcome, true believers and newcomers alike. Spider-Man co-creator Stan Lee here. Once again, we find our hero Peter Parker, better known around the world as the amazing Spider-Man, in a heap of trouble. But this is just the beginning, Spidey fans. So get ready for a true superhero action thriller.
Okay, yeah, if that's not the saddest thing I have ever heard. This entire game is narrated by Stan Lee himself. This man is so pure! Let's start talking about gameplay. Because this is the first attempt at a 3D Spider-Man game, I was ready for it to be a mess. I have never been so wrong. The gameplay is great, movement feels nice, wall crawling is easy, combat is fun, and for the most part, the levels are interesting. I was seriously blown away by how fun this was. Now that's not to say this game doesn't have its problems. It did come out on the PlayStation 1, so it does have a very low draw distance. You can only swing on your web if there's something 2 web swings away, and the original PlayStation 1 controller looked like this. So yeah, you can't control the camera, and for the most part it does a good job of staying out of the way, but sometimes it can lead to your death. But that's okay, because gone are the days of the archaic game over and continue screens. If you die, you just start over from your last checkpoint. Because of not having to restart over and over again like the other games, this game does seem shorter. So what does Neversoft do? Bam! Collectibles. Bam! Alternate costumes. Bam! Storyboards of every cutscene. Bam! Time trials. Bam! Extra modes. If you make the name on your save file something bad, Spider-Man will come up and punch it into a family-friendly word. This game is jam-packed with content and charm that keeps you coming back, without just artificially making the game longer. So far, this is the best game I've played, and we haven't even really talked about playing it that much. Let's get back on track. The game starts out with a bank robbery going on, and you have to swing and leap over buildings to get to it. Black Cat is there to talk to you and give you some tutorials on your way. Whoa, Black Cat, watch where you're going with those things. You could poke someone's eye out. We make our way to the bank and this helicopter gets shot down. Spider-Man? Hey, Spider-Man, are we gonna save them? No?
I can't believe they shot down those police choppers.
Yeah, just my luck. I'll probably get blamed for that too.
Yeah, you're right. No, that's more important right now. Anyways, we save the hostages from what looks like the Goombas from the live-action Mario Brothers movie and finish the tutorial. The next level starts with JJ calling you and saying, well...
Parker, shut up and dial 911. Scorpion's here.
Alright, well, that's hilarious. When you fight Scorpion, pick up the furniture around you and toss him directly at him, and it's over pretty quick. When you beat him, you get some classic Spider-Man and JJ banter, and Spider-Man jumps away. At this point, you run into Daredevil, which was a nice surprise. You don't actually get to see him in gameplay, but still nice to see more of the expanded universe. After a few more missions, the game shows that they really understand Spider-Man and what he would do in certain situations.
Spider-Man has given me a lot and taken a lot away, but one thing never changes. My responsibility to use my powers for others before myself, no matter what the cost. There are innocent people at Omnitech and they need our help right now. I won't let them down.
I really like this scene. It shows that the writers really know who Spider-Man is. Spider-Man's not going to take the selfish route. He's going to save as many innocent people as possible.
Luckily, Rhino is dummy thick, so it's pretty hard to miss him. After that, we find Venom and have to chase him through the city. This is beyond difficult. The distance in which you lose him is way too small. Look, I can still see him on my screen. Once you do chase him down though, you fight him and then you chase him down into the sewers. I think the sewer levels are some of the worst parts of this game. Very boring missions that feel very repetitive, with the exception of one. There is one where you have to stand on top of a train and survive without falling until the train gets to the next stop. It's an interesting idea that isn't completely original, but adds a whole new layer of depth with it being in 3D. After more sewer levels, we fight Venom again and save Mary Jane. Now that Venom knows that we were framed, he's on our side. From here, the game gets harder, but it's still a fun challenge. The new enemies become these symbiotes that are much tougher to kill. You fight the imposter that turns out to be Mysterio, and he's a really fun boss battle. After that, we run into the Punisher, who is ready to go guns blazing into the warehouse. But all of a sudden, Spider-Man wants to save lives.
You cover my back.
Huh. No thanks, Mr. Death Wish. I'd like to keep the body count low if you don't mind.
Just like you saved those cops in the helicopter, Spider-Man? The ones you were so worried about, Spider-Man? We go into the warehouse, close the exhaust ports that are poisoning the city, kill Doc Ock, and then kill Carnage, who is voiced by Klaus from American Dad, and it's really weird, I can't unhear it.
Die! Die! Die!
And that's the game. But wait, now we have to run from a Doc Ock Carnage mixture. The last parts weren't too bad. What can this guy throw at me? Yeah, this part actually had my heart pumping. You have to run away from this monster in these small hallways and he's always on your tail. This is how to end a game. Once you escape, you rescue Doc Ock from Carnage, then Captain America, Black Cat, and Venom show up in his ship to save you. We get a funny scene of our heroes playing cards and the villains locked up in jail, and then we roll credits. Now that the game is over, you unlock the black suit costume and that gives you unlimited webbing throughout the game. This game was a lot of fun, and if someone was looking to play an older Spider-Man game, honestly, this is where I would start them. It's the start of the more modern Spider-Man games, and I have a feeling a lot of games going forward are going to look back to this for inspiration. This game is going to get an 8 out of 10 Spider-Man poses.
Well, if every other game on my list is terrible, I'm still glad I got to play this one. As you can tell, I did have a really good time with it. That's going to be it for this episode though. Thank you so much for watching, I really do appreciate it. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. You want to see more? Subscribe, hit the little bell. That'll get you notified every time I upload. Thanks again for watching and have a great day.